We're going to go now to
Thanks, Bob.
Jim VandeHei, who's one of the editors over at Politico. He had a fascinating article on his website today about President Obama, basically what we were just talking about with Benjamin Jealous. The president is passed on the verge of passing financial services reform, has already passed health care, and yet everywhere you look, somebody's got a beef with Barack Obama. What's this all about, Jim?
Bob, it is fascinating because I do think that Obama's now put to rest this argument that he sort of is naive and doesn't have power in Washington. Because, in fact, if you look back to that inaugural address or what he promised on the campaign, he has delivered on virtually every front, whether it's this regulatory bill that's about to become law, the health care legislation that cost nearly $1 trillion, the economic stimulus, revamping, at least the beginning of the revamping of the education system, winding down the Iraq war, and I think winding up the Afghanistan conflict. He's done everything he said that he wanted to do and that voters elected him to do, and yet they don't like him. And I think the biggest reason is that independents have completely taken flight from this president. When he was elected, 62% had a positive feeling about him. That number, according to Gallup, is now in the mid-30s. He's seen a 25% swing among those swing voters, and I don't think that that's reversible in the short term. And I think part of it is they don't like his policies. They feel he went too far, too fast, and that spending is much higher than they ever anticipated. And I also think that any president he's sort of victim to the gravitational pull of employment numbers and economic indicators, and unemployment's high, and that hurts presidents.
Isn't that really what this is all about? Because you just heard Benjamin Jealous, the head of the NAACP. He said we've got to focus on jobs. And I keep going back to the idea that if the president, instead of putting this early focus on health care, and I can understand why he did that. He wants that to be his legacy. This is what he campaigned on. But I wonder, would he have been better off, in your view, Jim, had he tried to focus on the economy and put all of the focus on that and on jobs, if for no other reason to kind of get people in a better humor before he started in on trying to pass health care?
I think that's precisely right, Bob, because people care so much about the economy and jobs. I mean, White House officials tell us, they're like, listen, after the economy and jobs, it's a huge drop-off to the next issue that voters care about. So they know that on the two big issues that people care about, they don't like the Obama policy. So perhaps had they focused more on that, more on job creation, he'd have better standing right now. I don't think if unemployment just suddenly went down that Obama's problems would go away, because independents, if you look at what they care about, spending is very high on that list, and they really are worried that basically Obama is governing on the big domestic issues as a big government liberal, and they do not feel that that's what they elected him to be. They thought he'd be a new Democrat, maybe a Bill Clinton-style Democrat that would balance the different sides of the political equation.
I don't think there's any question, and nor do I think anybody is surprised that you find Republicans, and especially the more conservative they are, the more problems they have with Barack Obama. But I have to tell you, the part that has surprised me is the reaction of Democrats, especially liberal Democrats, to this president. And I mean, look at what happened in the House of Representatives, where the White House press secretary, Robert Gibbs, pretty much on one of the Sunday shows stated the obvious, that Democrats could lose the House. And I mean, the House Democrats just exploded from Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker, on down. What's that all about?
Well, I think there's two groups. There's liberals broadly across the country, and I think his support is still very strong with them. It's sort of the liberal elites and it's D.C. Democrats who just don't like this White House that much. Very few people have a close relationship with Barack Obama. A lot of Democrats have problems with the people that Obama has surrounded himself with inside the West Wing. And there's this sort of a very scratchy relationship right now, and it's now gone public over the last couple of days over these Gibbs comments. And everyone knows Gibbs just said what everybody knows to be true, but they feel like, you know what, this is indicative. It's Obama and Obama's White House looking out for Obama and Obama only. And that's what Democrats have been telling us for some time privately. They just don't feel that Obama understands Congress or what he needs to do to help Congress, and doesn't even care that much whether or not they lose seats. And you're now seeing that, whether it's Pelosi giving a tongue lashing to a top White House official, or now Democratic members of Congress saying on the record that they're agitated with the White House. You know, part of that, by the way, Bob, is that Democrats are looking at the same numbers we are, and they know they're going to lose a bunch of seats, so they're all agitated. So it makes them a lot grumpier and a lot easier prey for reporters who want to get a juicy quote.
Well, let me just ask you this. These Democrats are worried about losing their seat. Do you think that Obama himself is in danger of losing his seat over at the White House?
It's impossible this early to tell. And if you look at Gallup, which has a great thing on their website where you can compare presidential approval rating at any point in a presidency, he's still doing better than, say, Jimmy Carter or even Bill Clinton was at this point in his presidency. So Obama remains fairly popular. Those numbers have sunk the last couple of weeks, but people still seem to like him as an individual, like him as a president. So he easily could turn this thing around and easily could find himself much more popular a year and a half from now, especially if the economy turns around. But I do think that a lot of the things that we assumed when he was elected president, that he was great at politics, a great communicator, have turned out not to be true. In fact, like this White House, I think, is not very good at all at politics and isn't that great at communicating. I think some of his speeches have fallen flat. I think he's failed to break through all the noise with a coherent message and a coherent explanation of what it is he believes in and what it is he's trying to do for the country.
You know, I think you hit on the most important thing when you said if the economy improves.
Right.
I think like almost every presidency I've ever known about, when the economy is good, the guy that's holding the office has a much better chance of getting reelected, and when it goes sour, that's when he's in real trouble. A very interesting and insightful piece. I recommend it, your piece on Politico on the website today about Barack Obama and his fortunes at this point. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Jim
Bob.
VandeHei.
Have a good one.
Okay.